In this episode of Talking Clock, we sit down with Ronald, who goes by Horologym on Instagram. He's one of the OG Singaporean collectors that has been on IG for a long time. We get his thoughts on the MoonSwatch, which he has the full set of, as well as the MAD1. Before we start, please like the video. The support makes a big difference. Enjoy. So one of the big topics I actually wanted to get your take on and for you to share your views is actually maybe one of, I think, the most successful watch collaborations, or you can call it a collaboration, right? Or like projects that I've ever seen, and that is actually the MoonSwatch. And so, well, I suppose that you actually have every single MoonSwatch released to date, or you can correct me if I'm wrong on that front.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I have the first 11 and then a couple of Mission to Moonshine Gold pieces.
Interesting. Then I'm curious, like, did you get all of those at retail from a Swatch store, or how did you go about like acquiring each piece?
Yes, I did. Wow. Yep. Apart from the Mission to the Sun, that was actually a gift from Tom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice. Sun is yellow.
The yellow one, yeah.
Okay, fine. Then were there any sort of like fun stories that you have while you're like, or maybe which one was the hardest to get, for example?
Hardest one to get is definitely the Neptune. It's so sought after. Even to date, I am hearing that the supply is very limited because Swatch had to, for whatever reason, have to process it in a different way. I'm not so sure. So how true is that?
Okay.
So, yeah.
Then so I guess taking one step back,
Yeah.
I suppose that for you to have collected all of them, either it's like a completionist, sort of like collecting Pokemon cards sort of thing, or I'd hope at least that you really like the watches as well. To you, what are your thoughts on the sort of like MoonSwatch project as a whole?
I think it's a very good project to introduce watches to non-watch collectors. So when the MoonSwatch was launched, a lot of my non-watch friends started texting me and asking me about these pieces. Why is Omega so cheap? I had to correct them. This is a Swatch, not an Omega, just a collaboration. So you basically pay Swatch pricing for the Omega DNA.
Yeah,
So
aesthetic.
yeah, so aesthetic. So basically, it's still a quartz watch and ETA quartz watch from Swatch. Yeah.
Then I feel like a lot of people have sort of criticized the project, whether it's like, I think some people feel like the quality of it is very low, and maybe that's like one of the big points. But have you heard like any other sort of contentious points or criticisms about the MoonSwatch that you would like to sort of rectify and talk about?
I mean, a lot of the comments on my Instagram is always saying that the MoonSwatch is a piece of plastic. I mean, come on, before the MoonSwatch came out, we all know that Swatch is made of plastic, right? Why isn't anybody complaining about that? And why only now? Only because it's a MoonSwatch, then you complain about it being plastic? I'm like, yeah, it is slightly pricier than their regular chronograph watches. But, I mean, you have to pay for something more for this collaboration, right? So, yeah, I mean, the other common criticism was that this collaboration actually brings the value of Omega down, the branding down. I beg to differ. A lot of my friends who did not own a MoonSwatch prior to this are owners of the Speedmaster now.
Interesting. It actually got them sort of like hooked on it.
Yeah. So now they're proud owners of both the MoonSwatch and the MoonWatch. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Then, of course, I think, unless you've been living under a rock, MoonSwatch has come out with the whole sort of moonshine thing. And just now you're telling me that so far there are 4. Can you just describe, especially for viewers that might not be so familiar, about like why exactly there are 4 different moonshines, but like generally what is like the moonshine MoonSwatch and what makes it special?
So I think the mission to the Moonshine Gold MoonSwatch is actually probably like a gift back to Omega to use their priority gold material on the chronograph hand. So the first launch was in March. So the Moonshine Gold chronograph hand with the white loom pip. And then the following month was the gold chronograph hand with the number 3 at the bottom to signify that the watch was made in the month of March, the 3rd month of the year. And then last month was the pink moon, or rather the month before last month, was the pink moon, and then hence the pink loom tip. And then the latest release, which was last week, was the flower moon.
Okay.
Was the last full moon from the previous month.
And that is like a full sort of like flower hand or
Yeah, correct.
chronograph hand.
Yeah.
Okay. I think in a way, probably the moonshine one was the most sort of controversial MoonSwatch, I feel, at least on social media. I think not only because maybe people thought it was over, but when the first one came out, I remember seeing a lot of people thinking that, you know, why have they released this? Because it doesn't feel like too much different from what exactly or what already exists. What are your thoughts on the whole moonshine thing so far? Because I think you have two of them, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's something special. Probably I went overboard. I actually, but I mean, since I had the entire collection, right, I have to have everything again, right? I cannot leave one out.
Sure.
I mean, I hope maybe I just pray that Swatch will just stop all this and then start with a new collaboration. I hope.
Right.
Yeah.
No, interesting. Then, out of all of the MoonSwatches, which ones, let's say like pick a top three, which ones would go in that top three?
Top three would be the Mission to Mercury, the one in grey. You can say that's the dark side of the moon. I mean, it feels like it. And then the other one is the Mission to Mars. So it's
that red white?
Yeah, the tribute to the Alaska project.
Oh, because the hand, like one of the, it's like triangle.
It's like a rocket hand. Yeah.
Right. Alaska project is the super thick or like big
Yeah.
Omega, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And then the last slot I would say is a tie. It's a tie between the Neptune and the Mission to Moonshine Go. The one with the pink moon. Because that's the one that I really camped 9.5 hours for it with my friends.
Wow. So
Yeah.
what was the story exactly behind like getting that watch?
Because usually when Swatch is to release the Mission to Moonshine Go, right? So 2 days prior to that, they usually update their Instagram story. So it's usually like 6-7 p.m. in Geneva time. So it'll be midnight in Singapore. So I mean, so next day when you wake up, I have a lot of friends like updating on on WhatsApp saying that there's a new drop coming out. So I cancelled all my appointments just to meet my friends in the morning, like 9 a.m. in the morning. Then we queue up.
This was
at
MBS.
MBS, yes. So I mean, this was already a heads up to us that we knew that the watch is going to be dropped on that day at 7 p.m. So yeah, so 2 of my friends took leave, and then 3 of us will just queue up for it. This is unlike the other MoonSwatches, which the drops can be at random days of the week and then random timing. So usually we have to walk back and forth the store to check on the drop. I mean, for this particular Moonshine Go, we knew the exact day and time, right? How could I miss out?
Interesting. Actually, on that note, was there any like sort of strategy or that sort of thing involved in collecting all the other MoonSwatches? Because, like you've alluded to, with the Moonshine, you know, they're telling you when it's going to be released. But back then, again, like you said, not only were the timings random, but the shipments or like what exactly they would receive was also uncertain. So back then, especially after I guess you collect a few and then you're just missing the last ones, how exactly do you go about it, especially buying it from retail?
So my bunch of friends and I, we met up like 3 to 4 times a week for coffee. I mean, it's good that, you know, most of us are either in the sales line, so they're free and easy. So myself, personal trainer, self-employed, so we have the privilege of having afternoon coffee.
Yeah, flexibility.
Yeah. So you know, like back in last year, so the Swatch store at MBS is located right outside Siddeley. So we usually have our coffee there. So whenever we see a security guard coming over, we know what's coming. And then they'll start putting up the glass panels, and then the security will just be standing there. Then we knew exactly, okay, time to pay for our coffee, and then start queuing up.
It's like, those are basically for crowd control, I assume? Because last time there was really like a lot of people.
So when there's a line formed outside the store, right, the Swatch staff will actually give out alphanumeric random numbers of queue tickets. So back then we knew exactly like how many pieces was released today.
Okay.
It wasn't according to a sequence, right? But now they gave us alphanumeric numerous.
Okay.
It's for them to know, not for us to know.
Right.
Yeah.
Then at the time, because when you're queuing, obviously you don't know if the store actually has like what you want.
Correct.
Then do you just like ask like when you get into queue and or, like how
Okay.
does
So
it
the
work?
process is we queue in line. We got the queue ticket number, and then one by one we will just go in, or rather two by two. So one will be at the counter making the payment, the other one choosing. So we will be given a chart. So whatever that's not available will be pasted across. The sticker will be pasted across. Yeah. So we just pick and choose. So there were actually more than a few occasions where I was at the counter, looking for a particular piece, but it was out of stock. So I mean, but having said that, I knew some of my friends were looking for other pieces which was available.
Yes.
So without hesitation, I just bought it for my friends.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how we kind of strategize and work help. I would say help out each other.
No, for sure. Then I guess one of the last ones to actually complete your original set was the Neptune, or like which ones were the?
The Neptune
Oh, okay, that
was the last piece. Yeah.
Okay.
It was by chance that I went over to Ion Orchard and then asked for it.
Because the Ion Orchard one has since closed, I believe.
Oh, it's still around.
Is it? It's still around?
Yeah.
Did it move?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought it closed already. Anyways, I think another, and also I guess, in case people watch this video and they're not familiar with your profile, I think I'll just throw in that you actually do have a proper Speedmaster. Because I feel like you get this comment a lot, maybe to your frustration, but yeah. Then aside from that, another sort of collaboration that I thought was pretty successful and that I've seen a lot of your amazing photos of is the mb&f, or I guess is it mb&f? Anyways, it's the MAD1.
MAD1, yeah.
Right. That one you currently have the red one.
The red one, yeah.
Yeah. How was the journey towards getting that piece?
So I first saw it on Instagram was the MAD1 Blue back in 2021. It was Wyman's piece. Washinari.
Yeah.
So I bumped into him at Ion Orchard, so I saw the piece. He was wearing it. Then I was so intrigued by the piece. I fell in love with it. So I kind of like put an Instagram story on it, and then Max replied to that story.
Oh, nice.
So I kind of like by chance I just randomly said, "Well done. Any chance for us to non-tribe members to own it?" He said, "Unfortunately, the blue is strictly for friends and the tribe members."
And again, for those who are not so familiar with MAD1, it was effectively sort of as a thank you from mb&f to its customers and I guess friends and collaborators, right? And yeah, like you're saying, the blue one was only for those people at the time. I'm sorry, just putting that there. Yeah.
So yeah, I was very intrigued by that watch at that price point as well. Even though it's a Miyota movement, but so what?
Right.
I mean, the design language, everything is so mb&f at that price point. I have to emphasize.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, but it didn't hit me to actually write an official email to mb&f to ask them if there was ever another public release that I have a chance to own it. So fast forward to 2022 when some of the other watch accounts which I follow received their MAD1 Red. Then I was like, because those are the guys who actually wrote into mb&f to ask for an allocation, so they got their piece.
What was the timeline of this like? I guess it was originally, or it was already launched on Instagram, and then like people got early pieces. Are you talking?
You mean
about?
for the blue one?
No, for the red one that you're talking about now. Like, is this?
It was launched on Instagram first, and then probably a month later, the first batch was
that's very fast.
shipped out. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
So I got my MAD1 Red through the raffle. So I was very lucky.
First raffle.
The first raffle.
Okay.
So yeah, so the chances of winning was actually 2%.
Oh, really? I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. Out of 25,000 entries, so there were only like 400 to 500 pieces released out. Yeah.
Interesting.
So pretty lucky. The watch came just in time before the mb&f lab opened in Singapore, where Max actually came down and graced the event.
Yep.
So together with Singapore Watch Club and Max,
Yep.
so he hosted us. I was happily wearing my MAD1 red, and I brought the box, and then I had him autograph it.
Yeah, it's actually a very cool thing.
Yep. This is also to prove that I'm not flipping it because it has my name on it.
But yeah, I think also there's one thing I want to point out, which is that, when you think about mb&f, obviously you think of Max as the face of the brand. I mean, he basically is the brand right now. But yeah, it's actually a very nice project from him, I'd say, to give, people just a taste of the brand, or just like have something fun, because of course, like a lot of his watches are very pricey, and maybe some people will be very hesitant to wear them like on a daily basis or like rough them around. But this is quite a nice piece. Having worn yours or do you wear it often?
I do. I even wear it to the gym at times when I feel like it. Yeah.
Having worn it quite a bit, like, what are your thoughts on the piece as like an owner?
It's definitely a statement piece. I mean, the most attention I get are actually not from fellow watch collectors, but from kids on the streets.
Wow.
Yeah, because sometimes when I look at them, they were just staring at my wrist, so I just flick my wrist just for them, and then they would be just looking at my wrist in awe.
Yeah. No, that's very good. I've always said this, but I think mb&f attracts like a good sort of attention. So even when I'm going like or walking around or in a lift or something, wearing one of the legacy machines, you always see like kids staring at it. And I remember distinctly one time there was this girl who like pointed to her father and said, "Hey papa, like what is that?" And like that made me very happy, because I think I've had a fair share of like, because I've owned like the hype watches before, people like will see that in the office and sort of like gossip behind your back and say like, oh, that's like such an expensive watch. Or they'll tell like my boss like, oh, your junior or whatever has like, oh, some very nice watches or stuff like that. But those people might not necessarily be into watches. It's more just like out of like, they see it as a price tag. But to me, I think the whole mb&f thing it's like the positive type of attention. But yeah, I think on the topic of like price tags and whatnot, I think Singapore is unique in a kind of bad way, in that we have a lot of MAD1s on carousel. What are your thoughts on that one?
Screw those guys. I mean, seriously, they're just buying it to flip. Then what's the point? But on the bright side, right, I've seen the prices falling.
Right.
Which is good.
I think they're basically retail about there now.
Yeah, I mean, slightly above retail now. Okay. They're probably listing at about 6-7 grand. Okay. At its peak last year, it was listed for $24,000. Can you believe it?
That's market price. I'd be around some Rolexes, I guess, back then. Yeah, but that is absolutely crazy.
I mean, it's not that I don't believe in that piece, but it's just so ridiculous at the price that they're asking.
Yeah. Do you think like that says anything about like Singapore mentality, or just like collectors, or not collectors, or people here in general? Is it just like there are a lot of people out there trying to make a quick buck, I guess?
Well, these guys are opportunists. So they're just... I don't know, man. I mean, these are the people who actually take the fun away in watch collecting, I'd say. So artificial price hikes and stuff like that, that's all created by them.
That's true. Like when a retail brand sort of sees the grey market price going up so high, it gives them additional ammunition to say, okay, why don't we raise it too? I think that's fair. But yeah, even on the MoonSwatch, we saw a lot like in the secondhand market for... At the peak, what would you say the premium was? I guess it depended on which one it was.
For the Neptune, it was asking for as high as 4.5k on Chrono 24.
Insane.
Yes.
That's like 10x, no?
Yeah. But it's come to a point where it's a bit stupid, I would say. Even, remember just now I said that some of my non-watch friends asked me about the MoonSwatch. And then leading up to the question is, which one to collect? Which one has higher resale value?
Oh, no.
I just didn't bother replying to them. Yeah, I just say buy what you like. That's it.
Fair enough.
See, even a watch like Swatch, I mean, can even drive prices up in the secondary market. So I mean, Yep, everything can be resold for a higher value.
Yeah. I think especially in Singapore with it's really easy
Be it shoes,
like,
caps, watches, everything else.
yeah. No, I still remember the first time I sold like a luxury sort of watch. Might have been my, I think, Royal Oak at the time. And I was so surprised because I just remember like meeting the guy and he just like paynowned me the money. I was like off on his way. I was like, huh. Because I never like bought or sold a watch on the gray market prior to that. And I was like such a shock, like, okay, maybe I sold it for like around 40 plus. Because mine was like polished and anyways random stuff, but I was like, wow, this amount of money can change hands so easily in Singapore just like that. And obviously there are way bigger examples of like more expensive watches, like 6 figures that can move. But yeah, I think Singapore is interesting because I've heard that, I believe maybe it was from mb&f staff or whoever it was, but someone mentioned that Carousel, or at some point in time, Carousel had more MAD1s than there were in the rest of the world in Singapore. So in a way, you can see sort of like,
I'm so ashamed.
There is definitely a lot of super genuine, very knowledgeable collectors who, like maybe we would classify them as like true collectors. Of course, there are like a bunch in Singapore.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think you also have the other side of the coin. And perhaps that is why like all the bundling and that sort of thing has become such a big thing in Singapore, because like people here are willing to like engage in it. Like, if you enjoyed the video, check out the other episodes as well as my watch reviews. Thank you for watching.